On the Wheelhouse. Election Edition 4. It's the last one, and it's Bridgeport. For Connecticut Public, I'm Frankie Graziano. This is the Wheelhouse, the show that connects politics to the people. We got your weekly dose of politics in Connecticut and beyond right here. Bridgeport's past two mayoral elections have had some controversy. In 2019 and in 2023, the word out of the Park City was all about absentee ballots and whether or not the ballot count was right. In Bridgeport, residents are exhausted. They want to know when the bad things will get sorted out and when the focus will shift to all the good things happening in their city. On the Wheelhouse today, we're going to try to find a way forward and maybe understand what comes next for the people of Bridgeport. We're going to focus a lot on the policy, not necessarily the politics, and get to the heart of the issues that really matter to residents. If you live in Bridgeport, we hope to give you a platform today. Call 888-720-9677 right now with your questions for politicians in your city. Yes, you get to ask them questions. Before we get going, I want you to know about our effort to make this fair and informative. We pick names out of a hat to determine the order, and we want the candidates to get equal time. So we got a timer going. Meg Dalton's going to do that for us, producing the show. 3 of the 4 candidates are with us this morning. John Gomes has not joined us. And we're going to start with the person that was picked out of the hat first. Lamont Daniels, petitioning candidate for mayor. Good morning, Lamont. How are you today?
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Good morning, everyone.
So nice to have you on the Wheelhouse this morning.
I appreciate it. I really do. So thank you again.
All right. Clock has started, Lamont. You're not the one of the endorsed candidates here. You're a petitioning candidate. So tell us more about who you are and how you're differentiating yourself from the other candidates in the field.
Absolutely. So you're right. I petitioned myself on the ballot. I'm Lamont Daniels. I'm a proud Bridgeporter. I lived in Bridgeport for over 30 years, and I never looked back. I decided to run because I'm passionate about public service, about making a difference in people's lives. I have served our city, Bridgeport, on the front lines as a clinical social worker for many years. I fought to make greater systemic changes in our child welfare system by advocating for children's rights and policies for families in Hartford. And I currently oversee multiple departments in our neighboring city of Norwalk. I know how to hire good people, get the best for them, and how to manage multi-million-dollar budgets of taxpayers' dollars. I know how to get things done. I've also served here in City Hall in Bridgeport some time ago. And I want to be the next mayor of our great city. I'm a proud dad of 2 children. My wife and I are raising our children here, and my daughter goes to Bridgeport Public Schools.
Lamont, where's your head at as we approach the general election? Are you anticipating a fair election here?
Well, I think I've been watching just like everyone else. I'm ashamed. I'm embarrassed. This is not who we are. This is not the 150,000 people that have called Bridgeport home. And so I'm knocking on doors tirelessly now as we prepare for next week. And, many people have lost faith in our government, particularly here in Bridgeport. And so I'm hoping for the best. I know that the Secretary of State, we're trying to get this election monitor. I don't know if that's going to be enough, but hey, let's keep it honest. This is not the first, and this is not new. So as a petitioning candidate and many Bridgeporters who are supporting me and want to be engaged, they are very concerned of what's going to happen once again.
Can you tell me some of the specific things that folks are telling you when you talk to them?
Yeah, well, they just don't know if their vote is going to count. Will it be backdoor stuffing ballots? We've seen it. I've seen everything that everyone said, have witnessed, and people are just concerned. But I'm hoping that they come out. I'm asking them. I'm not tainted. I don't have no baggage here. I think Bridgeport needs a fresh start, a new beginning, and I'm prepared to step up and lead our city into its future.
And then what about issues? What are you hearing from the people there and what they need?
Well, I'm a dad, and so, we got to continue to support our students, support our teachers, build a positive working relationship with the superintendent's office, with the Board of Ed. Hey, we're doing some of this stuff in Norwalk. I mean, in Norwalk, the Common Council and the Board of Ed meet. Working with the board of ed and superintendent doesn't have to be a win-lose. It should be a working relationship so they all win. So that's very dear and important to me. Secondly, we still have to continue to support our chief. My understandings were low. The numbers that should be for our city, we don't have it. Morale is still stagnant, and I want to be the mayor to say, listen, I believe in you. Of course, hold the department accountable, but let the police department do their job and let's give them the resources that they need. And then lastly, knocking on doors, people keep telling me, Lamont, you got to bring some good jobs here. I want Bridgeport to be that hub of innovation and creativity and entrepreneurship. We have a variety of small businesses here, but they're feeling left out of the conversation, left out the dialogue. And so my administration will make sure we leave no company, no small business behind. We want to engage them, want to support them. And that's what I'm prepared to do to move our city forward.
Is that what you're talking about when you talk about potential? You say that this city that you're in, that you've lived in your whole life, has amazing potential, but I want to lock in on that word potential. Are you saying that to mean that the work the people in charge of the city are doing isn't on par with what the city deserves, or is it just people don't want to do business in Bridgeport? What is your thought there when you're talking about jobs and potential?
I've had some great conversation with business owners and developers, and they're very concerned moving their business or engage with our city. Again, this reputation is real. People judge you by the reputation, and there's always this hesitancy. I travel to Norwalk every day. I see things happening. But when I come home every day, I get frustrated, irritated, because I'm always asking, why is this not happening in our city? We are a great city. We have great things happening, have great infrastructure and potential, but I don't believe it's just not happening.
How much credit does the mayor deserve for that?
Well, the mayor's doing what he's doing, but I think it's time for a fresh start, new leadership, and time to move over and let someone else take the seat with some new ideas, some new energy, and let's do some things differently. And I'm prepared to do that.
What about inroads that can be made in bringing down that big time wealth gap that there is with Bridgeport and most of the rest of Fairfield County, including Fairfield?
Well, I'm a clinical social worker, so I've been on the front lines. I know what programs work. I know what to do, and I think that's a big, that's not happening in our city. I think we need to look at equity. Our affordable housing is challenged. People are getting priced out. Our housing stock is getting old, and I think I bring a unique skill set as a social worker to the issues that are most often plagued by our city. We have high rates of poverty, high rates of homelessness, and I think it's time to bring someone that knows how to do this, and that's me.
And then I wanted to ask you about entertainment. We talked about Ganem's contributions to the city, the mayor. He's saying that this is the entertainment capital of Connecticut. Is that something you buy into? Is that true?
I think there's some potential there. We're really pleased with what's happening in our city, but we need to make sure people want to stay in our city and visit our city. So they're going to these. We have state-of-the-art venue and top-notch talent, which is great. And people are coming in, but I want them to stay. And again, I think that, we need to do better with our downtown, market it better, and encourage people to stay in Bridgeport. But our reputation precedes ourselves. And we need a mayor that's going to step up and really work in concert and engage all sectors of our community. So when people come see a show, I want them to spend money in my city. And I don't think that's happened consistently.
We're talking around it kind of, but what is the reputation that you think that Bridgeport has?
Well, as I said, we're watching what's going on. I don't think it's a black eye. I think we've been knocked down. People feel scared to come in our city. I live here. I love our city. My wife and I are raising our kids. But again, this reputation is real. People perceive this city as unsafe. People perceive the city as that what's going to happen. And I think we just need to step up more. And that takes leadership. I think leadership needs to say, no, this is the city. And we're going to commit and make the investments. So when people come in our city, they want to stay here. They want to frequent here and see this place as a place to share. We are an urban center of the suburbs. And I think that's what's missing. The suburbs are great, but we want them to come downtown Bridgeport and also see a place to spend their nightlife and spend their money. And I think that's just not happening.
888-720-9677 if you want to ask Lamont Daniels, candidate for mayor in Bridgeport, any questions or any of the other mayoral candidates on today. 888-720-9677. Hey, Lamont, I want to get your reaction to state lawmakers not being able to agree kind of on this way to build more affordable housing units in Fairfield County. Do you have any affordable housing plans that you could share with us?
Yeah, I think what the mayor can do is really build these relationships with the affordable housing community. Bridgeport has a lot of nonprofits, and we need them at the table. We can't do it alone. And so as mayor, and that's what I'm good at. I'm a collaborator. I'm a partner. I know how to bring people together. I'm doing that every day in the city of Norwalk. So I'm ready to step up and do it for our city. So engaging our affordable housing sectors and really have some strong conversations, looking at our developers and looking at the ordinances. I know that there are ordinances that require percentage of affordable housing, but who's monitoring that? Who's overseeing that? Who's holding the developers accountable following our ordinance? The ordinances are there for a reason, but we need to make sure that we have folks monitoring and making sure. I mean, people are telling me they just can't live here. And the other thing too that really frustrates me is that there's a law here in Connecticut that over a certain population, cities should have a fair rent office. Connecticut's largest populous city does not have a fair rent office. I'm working in Norwalk and I oversee the fair rent office. That is a tool to help residents file a complaint, whether they feel like they're being taken advantage of or their rent is too high. That's something this administration should have executed and have moving immediately, and it's not happening.
Lamont,
so
you got less than 30 seconds left, so I'll give you this opportunity in the last 30 seconds to tell us why you should be mayor.
Bridgeport, it's time for a change. It's time to move ourselves forward. Bridgeport, it's time for a fresh start, new leadership. I'm uniquely qualified to lead our city. I'm a dad. I have two beautiful children. I will bring those family values to the seat. I will bring my combined skills as an administrator, as a social worker to the seat. And once and for all, I will put the people of Bridgeport first. I want to be your mayor. I'm looking forward for the opportunity to serve you. Thank you so much.
Lamont, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it very much. That was Lamont Daniels, petitioning candidate for mayor in Bridgeport. One thing I want to mention as we move to our to one of our interviews here is that there's a voter guide available to Bridgeport residents online. It's available in English and Spanish and was put together by a nonpartisan group that says it isn't endorsing anybody. Go to faithacts.org for more information. The next person that we're going to talk to today is also a petitioning candidate and also has an independent line, I understand it. John Gomes. How are you today, John?
I am doing excellent. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Hey, your campaign. Go ahead. Sorry.
I want to say something. I'm a Democrat. I will be on the major party line, which is the independent line. And I earned this through my relationship and conversation and endorsement with that party. A petition candidate without a party means that you have gotten a small amount of signatures and you qualified. I'm not that. I earned this through not only the primary, but also as an endorsement by a major
John, speaking
party.
of the primary, your campaign and attorney Bill Bloss, you're pushing for the primary results to be overturned. So what do you believe constitutes legitimate evidence of absentee ballot abuse in Bridgeport?
It was clearly evident based on the videotapes that showed there was truly a conspiracy to steal the election. There were a large number, I believe over 1,300 absentee ballots that were illegally placed in the ballot box, and they're unaccounted for. When you look at the number of correct ballots being put on the 2,500 hours of surveillance versus those that came in the mail, and we look at the tabulation of the 2,600 totals, there's over 1,300. So that in itself, I feel encompass that of there's no accountability, there was no justification. The numbers don't add up. And it was evidence that there was a conspiracy. There's a long culture of harvesting old applications. And we saw that evident. And hopefully, as we wait for the court's decision to come our way and to be favored in what we're asking for.
Can you define what you say by conspiracy? So who would be involved in that conspiracy?
Well, if you look at,
and is that what's being charged in court here?
Well, what I'm saying is that if you look at the video, there were a number of people involved in this. And when I say people, I mean people within the democratic process, the Democratic Party here. Not only were they elected official in the city council, but they were also vice chair of the Democratic Party. They were district leaders. So that's what I mean. It was a joint effort across those that represent the other side, the current administration, to do whatever they could do to steal the election. We won the primary. My campaign, my candidacy won the primary based on the ballots that were cast at the polls by 470 votes.
All right, so Mayor Ganim recently spoke to reporters outside of the courthouse where this case is being heard, And he pointed to a video of your campaign. The Ganim campaign has questions about how your campaign is handling absentee ballots. Can you help us here and tell us if you're involved in any way in any sort of absentee ballot abuse?
Well, we have to understand, my campaign respects absentee ballot. We respect that of opportunity of anyone who is unable to go to the polls. They have the right to cast their vote. We respected that. We currently, as it is, respect that. Those supporters of mine who were on the video clearly had affidavit documentation, application reference number to show who they voted for, including voting for themselves. And that record was illustrated not only in the Secretary of the State, but also in the town clerk who they voted for. The defense had the opportunity to bring them to the stand so they could testify, to contest anything they're trying to say we did negatively, and they did not. They did not. So with that, they rested their case without calling anyone that they saw on the video, unlike what we did. They didn't question them. No one on my campaign or my supporters pleaded the fifth. And we had documentation to support it. So we did nothing wrong.
Let's say that you do get a new primary, or even we look forward to the general election in November. Are you confident in a fair result in the 2023 general?
Well, all I could do is maintain forward and focus on what we're doing, and have confidence that the voters will turn out. It's unfortunate that we're still in the circumstance where the Secretary of the State has not acted more swiftly on what's happening and what has happened here in Bridgeport. But we continue to go forward, and we continue to tell the voters they have to turn out to vote in order to have the change they need. And that was exemplified on the ballots, on the polls on September 12th, and hopefully they'll come out again.
I told you about something that somebody said, or that Mayor Ganim said in outside of the courthouse, and this comes all from a story that Connecticut Post Brian Lockhart did. He quoted somebody yelling at Mayor Ganim saying, "We don't want you and your problems anymore." Do you feel that there's this trust issue between residents and city officials? And if elected, how are you going to address trust in the city government?
Well, without a doubt, it was evident. Again, I keep repeating, we won the primary based on 470 votes. That's the voters said enough is enough. There is complete trust of issue. Our campaign has been grassroots.
I got to say though that you're saying that you won by what was it, 400 and how many votes?
70 votes.
All right, it's still got to be decided in the court, though. I just want to make sure that's clear.
And that's an opinion of myself, and that's based on numbers that I've seen. That's based on the evidence that we've looked. That's where I'm arriving at, because even if you take out what we say or what we think is the right way that certain voters voted versus what we saw in the video, the numbers still do not add up. But in any case, there is definitely a trust issue with the people and the government. They want change. Our campaign has been grassroots. We've developed policies and agenda that reflects that of what the people wanted, what the people want. It's things that's impacting us. In Bridgeport, I've been a Bridgeport resident for over 40 years. I didn't come as an adult and say I've lived here all my life. I went to the public school system. My kids went to the public school system. I've been a small owner. I've had the opportunity to work inside government to understand what they're not doing. I understand the results.
So in thinking about that, let's think about potential business partners in the city. Then, what are you going to say to potential business partners if you're elected?
Well, hopefully, what we're trying to do is create an economic development plan that has been presented. We have presented economic development that has some solid numbers to it, not only about the growth within the hospitality area of 1,000 jobs. We looked at other industries to look at that. We have the potential of bringing 3,000 jobs to Bridgeport in the first term. We talked about bringing industries that are ready from the biotech, artificial intelligence, finance, hospitality to Bridgeport. We feel that we could have a strong relationship in Hartford to work with Economic Development Office in Hartford, but also advance Connecticut to look at the job sector that are looking to come to Connecticut and bring them to Bridgeport. Because right now, there are sectors of industries looking to come into Connecticut, but often they're derailed or they're pushed away from Bridgeport to other cities. and working with Advanced Connecticut and also with industries or nonprofits around Bridgeport, we identified what is coming to Connecticut and how we could build that infrastructure to bring that workforce here.
One sector that the mayor's very excited about has been the entertainment in Bridgeport. What can you do to build on that profile in Bridgeport and the entertainment profile?
Well, we have.
We're losing you a little bit here. Let's see if maybe we can eliminate maybe the video on the connection or something like that.
22 miles of waterways accessibility. We have connection with we have the infrastructure to New York for an hour transportation. We have 22 miles of water accessibility. So those are key areas where you talk about adding on to the entertainment sector. But what we have to do is make an industry that comes to Bridgeport that is conducive financially to all of us here in Bridgeport. We cannot bring an industry and favor certain selected group based on what they want to do as investment. Whatever investment made, we have to make sure there's a payback back on the revenue, on the tax, to lower the tax for the city of Bridgeport. We cannot continue to have events or certain venues to happen here, and the investor is the one taking all the money. And I'm talking millions of dollars while we're paying thousands of dollars in costs from service with police or public facility cleaning afterwards and so forth.
Just about a minute left here. I want to give you a chance to either continue with this, or you can address the wealth gap or affordable housing. Your choice. Last minute. Go ahead.
I'll address all three. First of all, affordable housing. In my economic plan, we talked about affordable housing. The city of Bridgeport owns 148 to 183 properties. We talked about looking at local contractors and giving them incentives to build there. We talked about putting some fees on other towns that are not carrying their affordable housing rate and making that money come back to Bridgeport. The affordable gap. Bridgeport is 10,000 below the median income. We need to bring jobs.
15 seconds.
Upgrade that. And I tell you, I'm the right person. A public school system student, work in government, small business owner. I live Bridgeport. I breathe Bridgeport. And I know that I could bring the right decision that will encompass all of us for us.
That's it for our conversation with John Gomes. John, thank you so much for coming on today. I appreciate it very much.
I thank you.
Good luck. Take care. Coming up after a break, we still got two more candidates to talk to, and you can ask them questions. That's right. You can talk to them. Call 888-720-9677, 888-720-9677. You're in the Wheelhouse. I'm Frankie Graziano. You're listening right now to our conversation with mayoral candidates from Bridgeport on the Wheelhouse. 888-720-9677. The number to call if you want to participate, 888-720-9677. Third out of the four candidates that we're talking to today is David Hertz, Republican-endorsed candidate in Bridgeport. Good morning, David.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm doing very well. I actually just want to take a moment to address the election issue. I basically say, why don't we trust our voters to be intelligent voters? Everyone's name is on the ballot. Let them choose. The whole fight about the absentee ballots, maybe if people care. In other countries, people travel for days to stand in line for hours to vote. Here, it seems like we're trying to expand the vote, and all it does is it creates more space for corruption. So I don't know if corruption occurred here or not, but all four names that are interested are on the ballot. Let's just let the people vote. So, but that's not why I'm here to talk to you today. So I'll let you take it from there.
So so you have that measure. What else, in your view, can you do to ensure that election results next week are legit?
I can't do anything. The only thing I can do is I can invite people to come out.
Or can be taken, at least
vote.
in your view.
So,
go ahead, yeah.
I'm here to talk issues. So I don't have a dog in that race as far as, except that, the easiest way to resolve all of this is to make sure that the Republican gets more votes than the other three combined. Then we can let this whole thing go away. The reason I'm here today is because the foundation of my campaign is that the foundation of our society is family. We don't see people talking to family. The thing that will get us, good. We need good jobs to support strong families. Strong families will support better results for our children. They'll socialize better. They'll finish school at higher rates. They'll have better jobs. We'll have richer households. We'll
All
have
right,
more.
tell me how you bring that foundation. How are you going to bring jobs to Bridgeport? Give me a plan.
Well, jobs to Bridgeport. Let's first start with transparency. Companies move. They'll do business in Stratford. They'll do business in Fairfield. If they can avoid doing business in Bridgeport, they do, because there's no transparency here. You don't know. Things just move slower. I'm a lawyer here in Bridgeport. Just for a little bit of background, I've only been in Bridgeport for 3 years, so I am certainly the newcomer to this place. I think sometimes an outside eye certainly makes a difference. I think to have a different party in the mayor's office than in the city council will certainly provide, how should we say, some tension that can be resolved, and that will be resolved via demands that things be transparent, and my cooperation with that to make sure that the people know what's going on, when the paving is going to happen, not just the last 3 or 4 months before an election. But you were asking about business.
It sounds like you're talking about trust, though. So get to that.
Yeah.
Transparency. You're talking about transparency. So tell me about it.
About transparency, let's get a budget process that everyone knows about. Let's have the mayor actually not talk to a bunch of businessmen at a conference down at Hartford at the AMP, but have his conversation with the city council on an annual basis like he's supposed to have, and make sure that we're working there hand in hand with the people that we have. There are a lot of ideas out here. There are a lot of I'm sorry. I rephrase the question. I'll get back and
you want the mayor to be more transparent. It sounds like
absolutely.
About his dealings on,
and I want
on
the,
the budget.
city to be. I want the
you
city
want him to talk
to
to
be
the city. That's
the
what it
city
sounds like
to
you
be
want.
the easiest one to do business with in Connecticut. So that means that the permit processes should move quickly. The zoning processes should move quickly, that we don't have things years after the fact, like this whole thing with Testo's down there. I thought that was a settled deal, and everyone has to come back out of the woodwork and relitigate the zoning permits that were given and adjust things. Things like that, they take time. And that's just one small local issue. But who as an outside company really wants to do business with Bridgeport? We have some great resources. I'd love to use those. I'd like to use our, as Mr. Gomes said, we've got a deep water, or we have the potential for a great deep water port here, bringing a lot of trade in and out of the city. We have a rail line here. We have the highway here. There's no reason that more isn't going through our ports and that we aren't doing more.
So then you're talking about potentially bringing in more industry. You talked about the Hartford Healthcare Amphitheater earlier. That could be a win for Mayor Ganem in the city here recently, and bringing somebody from outside of the city, at least to sponsor the venue. What do you think about maybe building on that profile? What do you think about the entertainment industry?
Well, I was downtown last Thursday night, talking to business owners downtown, and I asked them, has there been an impact from having these venues here? And, they're a couple blocks away from the venue, and they're like, I don't count on the traffic that the venue brings into the city. So while it might be great to have people coming into and out of the city, I don't think it has a major impact on downtown. I think the thing that will have a major impact is if we make Bridgeport a manufacturing city again. Right now, there are more people that work in building and ground cleaning and maintenance occupations than we have in production occupations. Milford, more people come into Milford to work every day than live there. Bridgeport, everyone goes out of Bridgeport to find work. We've got water, we've got land, we have roads. What we don't have is the businesses siting themselves here in great numbers to provide work. The other side of that is all of the businesses here. I sit on the BRBC. A lot of businesses here are starving for talent. We're not providing the talent. We have, I think, a 70-something% high school graduation rate. Our numbers in proficiency on math and English are abysmal. Along those lines, I mean, if we want to take a side, I don't know how much time I have here.
You only got about 3 minutes, and I want to talk about affordable housing and
let me
about the
bottom
wealth
line
gap.
For you. I am for school choice. School choice allows people to actually choose what's right for their kids. It allows people to have teachers that aren't beholden to a faculty of education. While it's a bigger issue than us, I think our faculties of education are corrupt. I think every child deserves a childhood. I don't think they're getting that. I think we need to excise talks about racism and oppression and victimhood from our classrooms. I don't think we should be
you're talking about critical
kids.
Race theory, it sounds like, and confusing kids. You're talking about being a liberal Republican also on your website.
Yes.
Help me understand what's liberal about that. You're talking about excising racism from the classroom. You talked about having I'm looking at one of the things here.
I'll give you another example.
Why BLM is bad is one of the links you had on your website. In about a minute or so, help me understand what makes you liberal.
Okay, so liberal in the classic liberal sense is we're willing to have a conversation with anyone, we're willing to talk. I think if you look at what's going on college campuses right now, the notion of a liberal Western state where we are the marketplace for ideas has been smashed. People rioting all over the place, people offended. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but no, now every word is a
I don't necessarily need you to explain your position. I just want to know what kind of makes you a liberal in that sense. Just help us out so that maybe there's a Democratic voter that wants to vote for you in Bridgeport and might support you here in the last 90 seconds or so.
Okay, what makes me liberal? I have progressive ideas about education. Look, liberal with a small L, not liberal with a big L. It's a difference for some of us, and I'm happy to work with anyone. There's a lot of love in this city. There's a lot of people looking to do great things in this city. There are a lot of people that are up to things, but what we need is jobs. What we need is jobs, and we need family, and that's the core of society, and anything we can do to create that, I'm for, and anything that takes away from that, I'm against. I don't think we should be trying to be the center for arts. I think arts follow industry. New York was an industrial place, and then the arts follow the money.
Just about 30 seconds left for you, David.
Okay, so basically, I thank you for your time. And if you want clarity, if you want to actually have change in Bridgeport that does something instead of more blue state results, you should vote for the person who doesn't represent, how should we say, an age of bad decision making.
David, thank you so much for coming on the show. That's your time. I appreciate you coming on. Republican nominee for mayor in Bridgeport. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
And last, we have Mayor Ganim joining us on the show. Thank you for waiting and coming on the show, Mayor Ganim. I can't hear you yet, Mayor Ganim. Are you still on the line? Maybe we have you muted on Zoom or something like that.
Hear me?
There you are. There you are. How you doing today, Mayor Ganim?
Good. I tried to listen to as much as I could.
Yeah.
And appreciate being on. I hope we have a clear line. A couple times it broke up while people were speaking. I don't know if your end broke up, their end broke up, or my end broke up. My apologies.
It did. We had issues with one of the candidates, but we think we had it solved, and we'll keep working if we have anything with you. Hey, you talked about listening. Did you hear John Gomes? He said right here on the show that your administration stole the primary. Can you help us understand whether or not you're connected in any way, your administration, to any alleged ballot stuffing in the city?
Yeah, we talk about transparency, first of all, and then I'll address John Gomes' comments. I think the enhanced level of transparency that my administration has tried to provide, at least that might be reflective in what's going on with the ballot controversy was it was me in my office that when the ballot boxes, these boxes that were put in pre-COVID, and they were put in specifically related to COVID and to ease voter accessibility in franchising or allowing people, as the word would reflect, their ability and their right to vote in every election, the presidential election that and governor's election that preceded that, and this one were placed in by state law. What we did over and above that, and I don't know that any other city or town in the state did it, but was make sure the cameras that have become so widely utilized now with these videos on the Gomes campaign and in court were placed by us. My office ensuring that these boxes were placed where these cameras could visually see and record exactly what we've been discussing here. So let's just set the record straight on that. Two, Gomes wants you to believe him as opposed to your lying eyes, as the song goes. When you see his people on some have referred to it as the Pink Panther video, where he has numerous individuals with Gomes shirts on, candidates on his ticket, and supporters doing multiple loop-de-loops to the ballot boxes, the same things that have been accusations that have been raised in the court case. So that, just to close the loop on that, and I don't want to spend the whole time on it unless you do, and if you do, I'll be happy to. But I think the people of the city of Bridgeport deserve more than that, and that's what I hope we can give them in this interview. But that will be resolved, I should say, and we should put our trust, as I do, in the court system.
Just
not
a
a
couple,
mayor thing.
Yeah.
It's just a mayor's thing. It's not a governor's thing. It's not a party thing. It's not a Republican Democrat thing. It's a terrible thing. But the courts are set up and our system of justice is set up to vet these. It isn't anyone that will do it. I have confidence in the court that they'll resolve it. I think the bottom line for voters is, before we get to issues or as we get to the things that I think are really important as we go forward, is there's an election in 6 days in Bridgeport to choose the next mayor, city council, and every person who is elected on a local level in the city of Bridgeport. And there's nobody, the court or anyone is not changing that. They've already said that. There's nobody changing that, and it's only the people of the city of Bridgeport's right. And I say our obligation to come out and vote and make a difference. Of course, I'm going to ask them to vote for me, and I think we'll talk about why I think that's the right choice. But this is an important election.
There still could be a primary, though, Mayor. So I mean, so yes, you will be going to, it looks like, to the polls on election day if you are in Bridgeport. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit.
The only thing we know at this time for sure is that there's going to be an election. I'll say it again for your listeners. There's an election on Tuesday, November 7th. The polls open from 6 to 8 p.m. I'm the endorsed Democratic candidate and will be on the top line with the other Democrats. What happens after that is going to be up to the courts and high courts and lower courts.
That's correct.
And all that kind of thing.
And there could be another primary in another election.
To come out and make a strong statement as to whether they think the progress, the steady, hard-fought progress that we've been fighting for, that I have for the past 8 years, that represent, some of it's been disparaged by your prior commentators or candidates, about the rise of Bridgeport in many ways, in positive ways, and a lot of work that we still need to be done, whether it's through the mayor's office or in partnerships with business and so on. So
I want to talk about your partnerships. I want to talk to you about the entertainment. I want to talk to you about affordable housing.
Remarks, but none of them come with a level, frankly, of authority that I think the people of Bridgeport should embrace in the mayor's office for the next 4 years. You know, they may lose the fact that we've held the line on taxes every year.
We want to get to issues. I want to ask you some questions here.
Okay.
All right, let me just ask you one more question about this. What do you say to state politicians that they're renewing calls for the removal of ballot boxes from local town halls? They want to talk about the controversy in Bridgeport as the reason to do it. Is this something that disheartens you?
I got to tell you, I'll answer that question right now. I met with my staff 2 weeks ago. Let's get the damn boxes out of there if they're the cause of the problem here that led in part to all this, along with other things. I'm not blaming the boxes themselves, but we're not in a position locally, and frankly, I'm not sure the state's in a position either to have understood or anticipated what issues could have been raised by these boxes. And if we could get rid of them, I'd get rid of them. I was told I don't have the authority to do that, and I acceded to that opinion. So I'm on the same page.
But the overall point is that people could be disenfranchised by all of this because of whatever controversy is happening down there.
You know what? I'm weighing balance at this point. At this point, I'm sorry, because of the controversy that we've had, the the court cases and the issues that have come up around them, I think that I encourage the state to take a serious look at some of the measures that we put in place. I think monitors, however we get there, and I appreciate the struggle the Secretary of State's having with trying to find people. These are thankless jobs on short notice. We need, and have asked for, along with others, and I think all for the right reasons, the same reasons, this thing called supervised ballots, because absentee ballots are voting by mail when you have the highest population of seniors and people with handicaps, disability, and lack of private transportation is a challenge against people's right to vote and to speak out on who they want to be their elected officials. So I stand with those voters as well. We have the highest population probably in the state. So we need to address that. We can't put Bridgeport in a vacuum and say, well, they got 10,000 or 15,000 seniors and people with handicaps don't have cars and avoid their ability or their right to vote. We have to help, as we try and do in every way with our citizens. I know it's different in rich suburban towns. Everybody's got a nice car and they got people that drive them and they go to the polls and it's not an issue. And I don't mean that as a disparaging mark against our suburbs.
I got 3 minutes left, Mayor.
City of Bridgeport. I got to stand up for the people of the city of Bridgeport. That's who I fight for. That's why I'm in this job in every way that I can. And it's not perfect. We're going to continue to have problems and challenges. This one is in the courts. They'll resolve it.
Let's
talk about what's important to people in the city of Bridgeport.
The wealth gap. Help me out with the wealth gap and how you guys are closing it.
The wealth gap is dramatic. It's been dramatic since before my lifetime. And the challenges that we have in a state like this, when you're one of the 3 or 4 largest, we are the largest city, one of the 3 or 4, let's call financially strapped or poorer cities, is to work out a system of equity, of fairness, that addresses the disproportionate level of needs that residents in my city, in our city, in Bridgeport have, and to try and assist. We're by and large a service center for the region. People come to Bridgeport for hospitals, for courthouses, for needs, for rental assistance, for affordable housing because they can't get it in the overly expensive and wealthy suburbs. And God bless the suburbs. All we want to do is provide a sustainability in the area of jobs and opportunity and address some of the needs that people have. So you're right. That inequity is a growing gap that can only be addressed in large part by state policies. And they've started to do that. So I do want to compliment them with their efforts on trying to push affordable housing in communities that are resistant to it, with efforts to equalize, at least now a start, in funding for education. We have the largest public school system in the state with some 22,000 students speaking some 46 or more languages and high special needs. So I'm happy we're heading in that direction. But it's not a challenge that the city of Bridgeport is going to solve. It's by and large going to be the state legislature coming together in partnership with cities and towns on some of this.
Mayor, last question.
I'll try and shorten my answers up.
Yeah, no, you're good. You got a minute left, and I just want you to be able to address what the other candidates have said is people not wanting to do business with Bridgeport. What do you think about that?
They're going to when you're running a campaign, they got to. You don't get a company, one of the largest entertainment companies in the world, Live Nation, okay, to come into Bridgeport.
Which company? Sorry, you broke up a little bit. Which company was it?
We are now, I'll say it's Live Nation.
Live Nation, gotcha.
Nation, one of the largest entertainment. They operate in every city in the country that has a music or entertainment venue. They come to Bridgeport and dub us the entertainment capital of Connecticut. That doesn't solve all their problems, but it is one statement against
15 seconds.
People want to throw stones. We have a lot more work to do. I'm committed to this city, the people of this city. I love this city. I've worked hard to get us to where we are, albeit not perfect. But I don't want it to go sideways by some fancy talking or demagogue on some independent party line or Republican Party trying to tell you how they've got a sweet answer to make it better.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
4 years.
And good luck next week. Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it.
Okay.
You heard from all 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, all 4 candidates for mayor in Bridgeport on the Wheelhouse today. 888-720-9677 if you have any follow-up. And we're going to follow up with somebody that's, dare I say, tapped in to what's happening in Bridgeport. Stay tuned to find out who. You're listening to The Wheelhouse. This is the Wheelhouse from Connecticut Public Radio. I'm Frankie Graziano. You heard from all four candidates running for mayor in Bridgeport. And now how about some analysis? And how about some analysis from someone who's tapped into Bridgeport, Bria Lloyd, investigative reporter for Connecticut Public and the Accountability Project.
Hey, Frankie, how are you?
So happy to have you in studio today.
Thank you for having me.
And that was a lot. We just had four people on, a lot of back and forth. So the mayor comes on and he says he wants people to know that there is an election next week. That's right.
Yes.
As we know so far, there is an election next week.
Yes. So as we know, there is this ballot case happening right now in the court in Bridgeport. And the judge does not have the authority to postpone that race. So that race will still be taking place on the 7th, which is next Tuesday.
A week after the September primary, Ganem challenger John Gomes, he files this lawsuit in local superior court. One point of relief he asked for is a new primary. Bria, what happens if the judge thinks there should be a new primary, and am I opening up a can of worms here?
Yeah, so stay with me here because it's a little confusing. So the judge will hopefully make a decision this week. So by the end of this week, we should hopefully know what's going to happen with this new primary situation. So if the judge says no, then obviously it's over and we'll just go forward with what happens next week. But if he says yes and there will be a new primary, there's a few different outcomes here. So basically, if Ganem wins next Tuesday or any other candidate who's not Gomes wins next Tuesday, then there would be a new primary. But if Gomes wins next week on Tuesday, there will not. Because his attorney, Bill Blah, says that at that point, Gomes will have gotten the outcome that he sought in the lawsuit, and there is no need for a new primary. As for when that would be, if there is one, we are unsure at this time, but that is what I understand at the moment.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Thank you for following the case for us as well. All right. You've taken a lot of time to go through all these scenarios, but what happens if one of the candidates disputes the outcome? Maybe the results of the general, any potential second primary? Like, what happens if one of them pushes back here?
Yeah, okay. So I talked to the attorneys in this case, and so people on either side, so Gomes or Ganem or whoever, has the opportunity to appeal and take that case to the state, to the Supreme Court of our state.
Okay. So there could be an appeal that we could see, and that could obviously strengthen this process out or something like that.
Correct.
And any word from the judge on when a decision in the case can be rendered? Are you saying maybe a week, sometime this week?
So hopefully this week. As of last week, I spoke to attorney Bill Bloss, who is representing Gomes, and attorney John Kennelly, who is representing the Democratic Registrar of Voters. And I know that all of the attorneys had to turn in their briefs last week. And so hopefully by the end of this week, we will know something. Not totally clear on that, but that is the hope, they said.
Okay, so I want to look forward. I want to talk about 2023, obviously, but we have to talk about 2019 as well. And now you're talking about state elections enforcement officials looking at two elections in Bridgeport. You had 2019. You're talking about in 2019 there being an issue with absentee ballots as well. So kind of help us understand. We had the state look at both of them. What's different between 2023 and 2019?
I think what's different in this case is the video. You know, there's thousands of hours of tape that they had to analyze, and I know that's a big reason why on the first day when the hearing was supposed to take place, initially they had to kind of push things off because there's just so much video evidence for everyone to kind of sift through. So I think this video is something that we haven't seen before, and I think that's really making a huge difference in this case this time around.
It's all about the videotape this time around. So
yeah.
What about the people at Bridgeport? What can you tell me about conversations you all at the Accountability Project have had with people and how they're feeling about city politics right now?
Well, when we go around and talk to people in Bridgeport, I think a lot of people don't really want to talk about politics sometimes. I think they're kind of just like, politics. They're not really always super interested with what's happening in office right now. I think what they're more interested in are other issues happening in the city. I think housing comes up a lot, and education, and these other issues that are impacting them more on a day-to-day basis. So when we ask people about politics, oftentimes they're not really too keen on talking about it.
And you're going to be potentially in Bridgeport next week?
I will be.
You or your colleagues?
We will be. Not potentially. It's happening.
I'm going to stake you to it now, and then hopefully maybe we'll talk to you on next week's Wheelhouse, because we're going to be talking about the election. This was a great debut on the Wheelhouse, Bria. I'm having a great time here with
Me
you.
too.
Hey, stay in touch with the work our Bria and the rest of the investigative reporters from our TAP team are doing to follow the situation in Bridgeport. You can go to ctpublic.org for more. Bria Lloyd, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I also got Brian Lockhart on in Bridgeport, who covers politics and policy for CT Insider. Look at that, another person that's tapped into what's happening in Bridgeport. Brian, how you doing this morning?
Frankie, I'm good.
Hey, before I get your comments, I want to bring on somebody named Rob from Stratford that's going to kind of give us his reaction to what happened here in this conversation. How did it go, Rob? What do you think? Rob on the phone, do we have you? Oh, Rob's gone. Nonetheless, we had Rob. We were talking about his reaction, but what was your reaction, Brian? What'd you hear from the candidates today?
Honestly, one of the things that really jumped out at me was Mayor Ganim said that if he could, he would get rid of the absentee ballot drop-off boxes. That's the first time I've heard him say that, and that really just jumped out at me. Because I think you have a lot of Republicans calling on the elimination of those boxes. But to have a prominent Democrat in Connecticut say, you know what, if it was within my power, I would get those boxes out of here. I thought that was really interesting.
And potentially disenfranchise voters?
That's one of the pushbacks against getting rid of the boxes. I mean, the Republicans will argue that, or one of the arguments is that they're a remnant of the COVID pandemic, that they were an emergency measure. And so technically the pandemic is over, so get rid of them. But yeah, one of the pushbacks is that the drop boxes do make it easier. I mean, let's not forget, though, that you can mail in an absentee ballot. So you don't have to necessarily walk your absentee ballot into the town clerk's office. That's one way to do it. But people could always, I mean, they're also called mail-in ballots for a reason. People could always return their absentee ballots through the mail. The drop box is just another convenient way for them to do it, and also saves them a stamp, basically.
And I imagine that this could be an element of concern, because this is what we're talking about. Anytime you have controversy, you're talking about absentee ballots, you're talking about potentially disenfranchising voters, votes not counting, right? So, like, let's talk about the policy. You cover policy for CT Insider. Anything you heard in there from Ganim, the closest challengers to inspire confidence in Bridgeport's future, maybe something that could bridge that wealth gap in Fairfield County?
You know, the mayor is extremely proud, I think, as you're aware, but also from his comments, on trying to make, as he has said, Bridgeport the entertainment capital of Connecticut. I know one of the criticisms of him, and the other candidates didn't really jump on this, but this is something that I've heard. One of the criticisms in Bridgeport is that the economy here, the development policy here, is developer driven. And what the critics mean by that is, if someone comes to Bridgeport and they have a good idea and they want to do business, they're given the green light. But there's not sort of this organized approach to it. And so that's what people say when they say developer driven. So one of the criticisms is that they would like to see a city administration that does more planning, as opposed to just sort of taking any development project that comes along and saying, hey, that's a great idea, let's green light it. You know, but Mayor Ganim certainly has had success. I mean, you can't deny that. You know, we have an amphitheater. I know he didn't talk about it, but they've had the Sound on Sound music festival. This was 2 years in a row. So he's certainly had some success bringing businesses here.
I only got about a minute left, Brian, so I got to ask you about the election monitor situation, because I totally forgot about this. And as I understand it from seeing from Senate Republicans, and you got to do this in like 30 seconds or not, there's not going to be an election monitor?
Well, there's supposed to be an election monitor, permanent election monitor, for 2 years. They have had a difficult time, the Secretary of the State, finding a candidate for that job. What they're talking about doing is trying to get somebody temporary just for the upcoming November 7th election, and then start the search again for a permanent person who would be the election monitor into 2024.
A lot to follow.
They haven't announced that permanent election monitor yet, so we do not have one yet for next Tuesday.
A lot to follow, and good luck, Brian, covering this, and good luck to the people of Bridgeport. We're with you.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on, Brian. I appreciate it. Finally, we may be getting off the campaign trail here, but next Tuesday is Election Day. That means we got elections to recap next Wednesday on the Wheelhouse. Send your questions ahead of the show to wheelhouse@ctpublic.org. What a show, produced by Meg Dalton today. Our technical producer, Kat Pastor. Thank you to Tess Terrible and Katie Tolarski for helping us in studio. Big thanks to our social team and our interns, Letitia Peters and Joey Morgan. Download the Wheelhouse anytime on your favorite podcast app. I'm Frankie Graziano. This is the Wheelhouse. Thanks for listening.